Hi, hello, welcome back to Bioenergetics. My name is Devraj, doing a little inset screen thing today. I'm going to be talking about narcissism, which is kind of something I think a lot of people are busy with out in the world now that our world has become so kind of dominated by social media. There is a kind of tendency in the human psyche just to not be so authentic, but to, on your Twitter feed, on your Facebook feed, on Instagram, just put out a kind of perfect version of you in some way. And there is a kind of it's like a temptation to do that. And that's one aspect of narcissism. And it's resulted in a lot of people being very interested in this condition, as it appears to be rising because of the way technology is changing. So I just wanted to introduce this model, which you may have seen before if you're familiar with my work. But if you ignore this stuff out here for now, and just this idea of three concentric rings, I have found very, very useful in understanding a lot of basic psychological conditions, and it can really provide insights which support people's development and becoming more authentic. And what this really means, these three concentric circles here, essentially is the idea of on the outside in our world is thinking. These are aspects of our private experience. These are aspects of our private experience. And on the outside, the most accessible is thinking. And then secondarily, we have feeling, deep emotions that are stirred up by the events going on inside around our lives. And then if you travel deep enough, you come to this kind of inner core of being, simply being present with the world, fully present, yes, you have emotions, you have thoughts, but you're not entirely dominated by them. You have a lot of choice about how much you go there. And, it's quite a journey to come from thinking right into being. You have to pass through this layer of very deep, intense feelings and a lot of repressed energy that's held inside the psyche. Now, for the narcissist, what has usually happened is they have hardened this layer here. So we've got this kind of hardening effect between thinking and feeling, because what they learned as a kid was that deep feelings weren't okay. They may have, if they cried a lot in front of their parents or other caregivers, maybe they were treated harshly, they weren't given what they needed, they weren't given comfort, they were told to just get on with it or pull themselves together or whatever. And at some point they kind of learned to harden over this area, and so they're functioning predominantly just from thinking. And because they've suppressed this layer of feeling, it's very hard for them to find out authentically who they are, because we need feelings to be authentic. Otherwise we are just literally like a kind of social media avatar projecting images out. And this is what they've learned to do from this world of thinking. They learn to project the perfect me out into the world, not just on social media, but, out in the world of work, out in relationships, whatever. They just, they try and create this perfect image, and they just try and push it out into the world. But of course there are all these feelings underneath, even if they're denied or whatever. They're all sitting there, and they're constantly affecting the narcissistic person. And so they tend to get involved in addictive behaviors, in perhaps alcohol or drugs or ritualized kind of regimes somewhere in their daily life, to keep this stuff down, to keep it suppressed, because we're not robots. All the feelings are in there. They've simply been disowned, and we're from learned behavior as a child. And so this is the narcissist basically. And what they don't want to do is direct energy inwards. Another very important aspect of this is that in many ways the narcissist tends to be an oral subtype, and it's also a form of compensating oral. If you remember from Reichian character structure, the oral character type is set up when we don't have adequate connection with our mother in the first year of life. It leaves us in a sense of kind of deep neediness, a sense of there always being a gap, like we're never going to get enough. That's the trace that's left deep inside our inner world. And one subtype in Reichian character structure is the compensating oral. And this kind of oral person, instead of feeling their own neediness, gives all the time to others. They give all the time to others, so they're always needed, and they don't have to experience their own neediness. But actually, that is not the only type of oral compensation. The narcissist tends to be oral compensating as well. But instead of giving a lot, they tend to manipulate people to be close to them. So because of this inner sense of lack that's in here, this oral tendency in the narcissist, this lack of connection within the first year of the mother, when they want to get people into their life, they find a way to keep them close without them having to reveal any vulnerability. So this includes techniques like gaslighting, keeping someone's self-image low. If they're working in a team, if they have a boss, they tend to make neg comments a lot of the time to try and keep people in a state of low self-esteem, not believing in themselves, because then they will stay sucked on to the father or the mother narcissist figure. Likewise in relationships, very, very common. Also in friendships, of course, not very good friendships, but you will see it. The narcissist has needs, even if they don't consciously recognize it. And so to get these needs met from other people, they tend to form these unhealthy, manipulative relationships with others around them, where they've got a feeling of control. They don't have to be vulnerable, and they don't have to feel their inner neediness. So in many ways, narcissism is another form of compensating oral. Okay, so what's the way out for the narcissist, really? Because to live like this is not really, it's very mechanistic, it's very machine-like, it uses quite a lot of energy, and you also need to do something about all those feelings that are trapped inside, but are still constantly getting triggered, and that can lead you into drugs, into dangerous behaviors, into all sorts of things, and your relationships, if you're really honest, are not very good. The way out, basically, is that you need to learn to come through this barrier and start to process the feelings that are held in this layer. You cannot simply, as a narcissist, keep just directing your energy outwards into the world, into letting people see you as some kind of perfect character. You've got to spend some time. There's nothing wildly wrong with that. We live in the real world, of course. We want to seem functional, we want to seem good. There's nothing wrong with that. But you also have to invest some time in traveling this road here, from thinking down towards being. And you can't just jump over this into here. Because people often ask me, when they see this diagram, how can I model being? That's not a solution. You can't just model being. You have to go through this layer of feelings, and it doesn't have to be a nightmare. You have to get interested in what's going on inside of you, and then from that interest, from that fundamental shift in direction, instead of just looking outwards all the time, you look outwards some of the time, and you also start to look inwards and get interested in your own inner dynamic and what's happening. You get involved in therapy, you can get involved in bioenergetics, and you start to look into your inner world, the world of your childhood, the world of your relationships, what's really going on in all those inner dynamics. Are you excessively in control? Are you okay with being vulnerable around other people? And with bioenergetics or Reichian work, what's particularly interesting is that that's a great way to move through this layer. And in fact, it doesn't always involve huge amounts of feeling. The reality about this layer is actually it's just a lot of repressed energy held in the body, held in the muscle system, or sometimes dead zones where we've really cut off from feeling entirely, and a part of our muscle system is kind of allowed to go slack. And with bio, you start to wake up and release that energy, and you become more open to emotions, but you're not necessarily hurled into depths of terrifyingly bad emotions. If you do bio correctly or Reichian work correctly, then you slowly start to break up this hardened barrier. More feeling starts to come out at a rate that you can manage and process. You start to feel better about yourself. You realize this is a good journey to go on, and slowly you integrate this, and so really the whole thing becomes just one big layer of being, where you're not, and then you feel like you have an authentic personality. You can be vulnerable, you can hold boundaries, you feel good about yourself. If you're interested in doing this work, and you're interested in narcissism, or you want to work on your own narcissist side, or if perhaps you've been entangled with narcissists and you want to understand more their own dynamic, then do check out my course, Transforming Narcissism. It's a 7-module course, which you do entirely online. And each module has like some basic psychological theory, very easily presented like this, so you can understand what's going on inside. And you also have an assignment to do out in the world or in your daily life. And you also have a bioenergetic or Reichian workout that you need to do 7 times before moving on to the next module's content. So these 7 modules might take you just 7 weeks, or they might take you 7 months or longer. But you have lifetime access, and over time you can really transform from this narcissistic tendencies into a really authentic human being that you feel authentically good about. Okay, I'll leave a link to that course below, and thank you for tuning in and watching this video.